Tell the court about you get back from over the road and you come into a motel room. What do you see? What do you do?
As far as the situation?
Yes.
So I got back and I had noticed that she was unconscious on the bed. I carried Narcan with me as a former medic. I've, always carried it with me, and being from Flint, you never know when you're going to have to use it on somebody. So I had some in the truck. I ran out to the truck, grabbed the Narcan, came back inside, administered the Narcan, no response whatsoever. And then I immediately called 911.
In between calling 911 and 911 showing up, did you have a heart attack?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Yeah. Did you have a heart attack that day?
Yes.
Was it after you called 911?
Yes, it was approximately 35 to 45 minutes after the fact.
In the interest of Jasmine Peterson, we are here today scheduled for our final in this case. We are conducting this Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. For the record, Mr. Peterson had at one point tendered a jury demand, but he subsequently withdrew that. Mr. Novak filed a notice of that. And so we are here for a bench trial today. As stated, I've brought everyone in from the waiting room. Neither Ms. Goucher nor Mr. Peterson appear to be present. So we'll go ahead and take announcements from everybody. We are live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. We're present ready, Your Honor.
T.D. Hammons for Gloria Goucher, mother of Jasmine. Ready to proceed, Judge. I have tried over the last couple of weeks. I do have a phone number for Gloria. It goes to her voicemail. It says, "This is Gloria." I've left her messages. She's never called me back, so I've not heard from Gloria for about 6 months probably, but I am ready to proceed.
Judge Vince Nowak on behalf of Russell Peterson. I'm shocked he's not here because I communicated with him yesterday and I talked to him on Sunday, but I'm here and I'm as ready as I can be, Judge. Thank you.
Paula on behalf of Jasmine. All right then, Mr. Trout, who's your first witness?
Casey Swihart, Your Honor.
Right, Ms. Swihart. All right, you solemnly swear or affirm that the testimony you'll give on trial today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth?
Yes.
Okay, all right, you may proceed, Mr. Trout.
Ms. Swihart, would you state your name for the record, please?
Casey Swihart.
Ms. Swihart, how are you employed?
I'm an investigator with the Department of Family and Protective Services.
And how long have you been in that role?
Over 7 years.
Okay. And are you familiar with the case involving the child Jasmine Peterson?
Yes, I am.
And how are you familiar with that case?
I was the investigator that initially got the case in 2023.
Okay. And how did the department become involved in the case with this child?
The first report that was received by the department was April 8th. There was a report that Jasmine had been born and her father was an alleged sex offender who was in the hospital, and it was unknown if he had any restrictions about being on the labor and delivery floor.
Okay. And were you able to meet with the parents?
Yes, I was.
Okay. And when was that?
On April 8th.
Okay. And did you let them know why you were there?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what did parents tell you about that situation?
Russell informed me that he had a charge from 2000 something, where he was 14 years old and he had urinated in public. And the second he became an adult, it was off of his record. And everything else after that was a normal interview. They denied any domestic violence, drug use, anything like that.
Did he state whether he still had to register, or did it all go away?
He told me that it all went away.
Okay. And where did your investigation go from there?
The family left the hospital a few days after that. They were going to be staying at the America's Best Value Inn. The department paid for them to be there for 2 weeks while they figured out a better housing solution for themselves. Everything seemed to be okay. Russell was going back to work. Gloria was watching Jasmine at the hotel until April 20th when the department received another report.
Okay. And just to back up just a minute, you say they were going to be staying in the America's Best. Where were they? Where did they tell you they were staying before that?
In Russell's truck.
Okay. And when you say truck, do you mean semi-truck, 18-wheeler?
Yes, his 18-wheeler.
Okay. And now yes, ma'am.
Hang on, Mr. Peterson's logging in. Just hang on just a minute.
Yeah, Judge, I just got a text message from Gloria. I just sent her the Zoom link as well.
All right, Mr. Peterson has logged in with us. All right, Mr. Chatch, you may proceed.
Sorry, Judge, I had muted. So Ms. Swallard, back up just a second. They were living in the truck at the time.
That's correct.
Okay. And they were trying to get in a hotel since the baby was born.
That's correct.
Okay. And you said the department helped pay for 2 weeks.
That is correct.
Okay. You said everything was going normal until the 20th. What happened on the 20th?
On the 20th, the report that I received said that law enforcement was called out to the hotel because Russell had come back from a trucking job and found Gloria unresponsive on the bed with Jasmine right next to her. He had called the police. The police came out. Mr. Peterson said that he gave Gloria Narcan and that wasn't working. And then Gloria was arrested, and Russell ended up having a heart attack during this whole incident, and he was taken to BSA, and Gloria was left in the care of a neighbor at the motel.
Okay, I'm gonna back you up. You said Gloria was left in the care. Do you
I'm
mean?
sorry, Jasmine was left in the care of the neighbor at the hotel.
Okay, and now what you just described, are these two different instances, Russell coming home and finding Gloria and then them being arrested? Were there two different call outs?
That was, yes, I believe there are two different call outs for that.
Okay, all right. So on the first call out, Gloria did not go to the hospital to get checked out. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. Then paramedics and officers left, and then another call out was made. Correct.
Correct.
Okay. And so you were able to make it out there on the 21st. Is that correct?
Yes, the very next morning.
Okay. And where was the baby? Jasmine?
The baby was still in the neighbor's room.
And
both parents weren't there.
I'm sorry, I almost interrupted you. Say that again.
Both parents were not at the motel.
Okay. So you attempted to reach them in the motel room?
That's correct.
Okay. Did you recognize who the neighbors were?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And who were the neighbors?
They have extensive CPS history, and I've worked cases with them before.
Okay. And so at that time, father was in the hospital and had a heart attack, and mom was in custody.
That's correct.
Parents are not from here, are they?
No, they're not.
Okay. Did they have any family or support here?
No, they did not.
Okay. And child was left in the care of some people who not appropriate for caring for the baby.
That's correct.
Okay. So an exigent removal was done, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. After that, were you able to get in touch with parents?
Yes, I did meet with Russell at the hospital. I explained the exigent removal and the need for it, and he said he understood at the time. I did attempt to meet with Gloria immediately after that, but was unsuccessful.
Okay. And Russell told you what had happened that night. What did he say about that night?
He told me that during the incident, after Gloria had come to from her being unconscious, there was a domestic violence incident where she had punched him in the chest, and he claims that is what started him having a heart attack.
Okay. Did he state anything about mom's drinking?
Yes, he did admit at that time that that was a regular thing for her.
Okay. Now there was some discussion on whether she had quit while she was pregnant or not. Did he mention anything about that?
Mm-hmm. He did.
Okay. To his knowledge, she had quit while she was pregnant.
That's correct.
Okay. But did he state whether mom had a prior drinking history?
Yes, he did say that she did.
Okay. What did he say about that? Did he make any?
Just that she had had a history of drinking and that it was becoming a problem.
Okay. Did she state whether she has any self-control when it comes to drinking?
He said she does not.
Okay, Ms. Trout, let me interrupt again. I think that I brought someone in on the phone. I'm guessing with Ms. Goucher, identified as the letter G. I'd like for her to unmute. Let me identify and make sure that that is her. So, Ms. Goucher, can you unmute, please?
Hello,
All right. Will you please state your name?
Gloria Goucher.
Okay. All right. All right, Mr. Trout, you can proceed.
Thank you, Anna.
I would like to ask, for the purposes of the final hearing, that if the parties have video, that video be turned on.
Yeah, Mr. Peterson had his on, so Mr. Peterson, if you can get yours back on, then Ms. Goucher, you need to go ahead and enable your video.
I don't feel like it.
I'm sorry, what? I'm sorry?
I can't figure it out.
Well, let me send you a prompt.
Your Honor, I am trying to get mine turned on. However, I don't know what is going on with my button. My screen is cracked where the video thing is to reactivate my video, and it's not allowing me to touch it.
All right, let me send you a prompt as well. All right, Mr. Trout, you may proceed with your question.
Thank you, Anna. Ms. Swallard, after you met with Dad in the hospital, were you able to meet with Mom?
Yes, I did meet with her at the hotel room a couple days later.
Okay. When you were meeting with Dad in the hospital, was Mom still in jail or had she been let out at that time?
She had actually called him while I was in the hospital talking with him, asking him for a ride back to the motel.
Okay. And how long was Dad in the hospital?
It was only 2 days, a day or two.
Okay. Did he have some procedures done?
And there was talk about him needing a heart cath.
Okay.
But yes, he was on bed rest whenever he was discharged.
Okay. And you said so child was removed due to no family, nobody we could get the baby to, and parents being indisposed at the time. One in the hospital. Yeah.
That's correct.
Okay. After the removal, you said you were able to meet with Mom a couple of days later in the hotel room. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Was Dad in the hotel room at that point too?
Yes, he was.
Okay. And what was your conversations that day?
I talked about with Gloria the removal that had taken place and why Jasmine had been removed. Gloria thought it was because they had dogs in the motel room, and I tried to explain to her the circumstances of that not being the case. It was everything else that led up to it. She was not happy about it. She wanted me to bring her baby back to her. It was a little argumentative, but at the end of it, they were able to understand what was going on, and said that they would do what they needed to.
Okay. Did you have a discussion with Mom about statements she had made to paramedics?
Yes, I did.
Okay. And what did Mom say about those statements?
She said that she was coming out of it and that she didn't know what she was saying, but denied any any drug use.
Okay, and what was the statement you asked about?
Whenever she was coming out of her unconsciousness, she had said that she had taken morphine pills as well as drank alcohol.
Okay. Did mom make any statements as far as was this the only time she had drank since the birth of Jasmine, or did it happen, has she drank since the birth?
It had happened since the birth, just not to this extent.
Okay. And how old was Jasmine at this time?
Just 15-ish days old.
Okay. All right. Did mom state she stated she was arrested that night for public intox? Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And did she state that she had left the baby with the neighbors?
Yes.
Okay. So mom had approved the leaving of the child with the neighbors and that had prior history.
That's correct.
Okay. Dad was on bed rest?
That is correct.
Okay. At that time, did you believe that it was safe to return the child to the parents?
I did not, no.
Okay. And tell me why.
One, Russell was on bed rest. He couldn't care for Jasmine the way that a few-day-old needs care for. Gloria was still, there was concerns for her drinking and possible drug use and whatnot. Russell had also talked about how he was going to leave Gloria once he was off of bed rest, and he wanted to take Jasmine with him on the 18-wheeler when he went on road trips.
Okay. And Dad had mentioned that prior to having the baby, he knew that Gloria had a drinking problem.
Correct.
And did they state how long that drinking problem had been going on?
For quite some time. They have other children that are not placed with them and have not been for years.
Okay. So they don't have custody of any of their children.
Correct.
And Dad had left the baby with mom, knowing she has in the past and for years has had a drinking problem.
That is correct.
Okay. And at that time, during all of this, you believe it was in the best interest of the child to remove the child from the parents?
That is correct.
I'll pass the witness at this time, Your Honor.
Mr. Hammonds? And you'll have to remember to unmute.
I have no questions, Judge.
All right, Mr. Nowak?
Thank you so much, Judge. Ms. Swihart, I just have a couple simple questions, the same questions I asked you at the adversary hearing. And I want to ask you if you'll agree with me that on the day of removal, it was your opinion that Russell was not a fit caregiver because he had had a heart attack, correct?
He was in the hospital. Yes.
I want to rephrase that just to make sure it's good for the appellate record, which is likely coming. At the time of the removal, he was not a fit caregiver because he had had a heart attack, correct?
At the time of removal, he was admitted into the hospital, and that made him an unfit caregiver.
You understand he was admitted because he had had a heart attack, correct?
That is correct.
And the fact that he was in the hospital with a heart attack at that particular point in time made him an unfit caregiver, in your opinion, correct?
That is correct.
That's the witness, Judge.
All right, Ms. Zavala?
And were there concerns about the fact that Russell had left this young baby with a caregiver who has an extensive history of abuse of alcohol?
Yes.
And Russell and Gloria had been together for, I'm just guessing at this point, 13, 14 years?
A very long time, yes.
And Russell had expressed to you knowing Gloria's history with alcohol.
That is correct.
And Russell had also told you about the 4 kids that are not in their care.
Yes, ma'am.
Pass witness.
Okay, Mr. Track, any further questions for Ms. Swihart?
Ms. Ward, where was the child placed once removed?
In foster care.
Okay. And by the end of your time in the case after the adversary hearing, child was doing well?
Yes, she was.
Okay. And did you have any, did you work on this case anymore after the adversary hearing?
I did not, no.
Okay. So your job is just up through the removal.
That is correct.
Okay. Did normally visitations are set up, were visits set up on this?
Yes, there was.
Okay. And I know we had some legal trouble and some health issues at the time. Did parents make their first visits?
The first visit was set up for April 27th, and both parents did not appear.
Okay. And was that an in-person at the time, or was that virtual at the time? How was that one being done?
That was in person.
Okay. All right. Did any parents state why they didn't tell you why they didn't make that visit?
Russell had sent me a text message, and we had a conversation about how he claimed he didn't know about the visit until the day before, and he couldn't make arrangements to get there.
Okay. But you don't know what happened after that as far as visits?
I do not know.
Okay. And again, removal was best interest of the child at the time due to parents not being available and no family members. We had one in the hospital, one incarcerated. After that, when parents were back, parents were still in the hotel together. And there were concerns that dad had known about mom's drinking problem and left baby in the care of mom by herself.
That is correct.
Okay. And dad explained to you that he had found mom unconscious, baby in car seat on the bed.
That is correct.
Okay. And that gives the department concern as far as decision-making from dad.
Yes.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Hammonds, any questions?
Ms. Swihart, do you know when Gloria was released from jail?
That was going to be April 21st.
Okay, and what was your understanding? Why was she jailed?
She was in jail for the domestic violence incident that had occurred between her and Russell.
Okay, I have nothing further, Judge.
Mr. Noet?
Thank you so much, Judge. Just a few additional questions, which I probably should have asked at my first opportunity. Ms. Swihart, when Russell was taken to the hospital with his heart attack, the child was placed with neighbors at that motel, correct?
Correct.
Was that a yes? I'm sorry.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Do you have any knowledge that Russell knew that these motel neighbors had a CPS history?
That I do not know.
Okay. Do you know for a fact that the police officer responding told Russell to place that child with the motel neighbors?
I do not know that, no.
Thank you so much, Casey. I'll pass the witness, Judge.
And Ms. Vella?
No further questions.
All right, anything further?
Two quick things just to clarify, Your Honor. Ms. Swihart, your investigative report, follow up to what Mr. Novak was just asking about police placing the child with the Smiths. I think I asked this earlier, but in your investigative report, did mom state she left the baby with the Smiths?
Yes, she did.
Okay. So APD did, mom saying it was her that allowed that. Is that your understanding?
That is what Gloria had told me, yes.
Okay. Now, to Mr. Hammond's statement, a question a second ago about mom's arrest. Did mom tell you that she was, I know you said it was for a domestic violence incident that had happened, but did mom state that she was actually booked for the public intox?
Yes, she did.
Okay. All right. So it came out of that situation, but mom's was booked in for public intox.
Correct.
Okay. All right. Thank you. Nothing further, Your Honor.
Okay, anybody have any further questions for Ms. Swihart?
No, Judge.
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, any objection to Ms. Swihart being released to go on about her day?
No objection.
I don't want to hold her hostage, but if she is needed in rebuttal afterwards, I would love for her to be available. I don't think she has to be here this whole time. I think she could leave and come back if we need her, as long as she could be available to come back.
All right, Ms. Swihart, is your schedule such that you could be available to log back in if you get a phone call?
Yes, I will make myself available.
All right, I appreciate it very much. Then I'll go ahead and let you go at this time. Just know that you are subject to recall, and you still are under until this concludes. You would still be under oath as well. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
Thank you, guys.
All right then. You can call your next witness.
Call Courtney Brown, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Brown. Right hand, thank you. You solemnly swear the testimony you'll give on trial today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
Okay. All right, you may proceed.
Ms. Brown, would you state your name for the record, please?
My name is Courtney Brown.
And Ms. Brown, how are you employed?
I am a permanency specialist with St. Francis Ministries.
Okay. And St. Francis takes over cases after the adversary hearing, is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And how long have you been employed by St. Francis?
Since March of 2022.
Okay. And are you familiar with the case we are discussing today involving the child Jasmine Peterson?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And how are you familiar with that case?
I became the permanency specialist assigned to this case back in January of this year.
Okay. And tell me, how does, what are St. Francis' first steps once y'all get a case?
So we meet with the parents. We meet to discuss any strengths that they have, any needs that they have, and then we create a family plan of services based off of that conversation with the parents.
Okay. And can you tell me what family plans of service are?
So it is, it's a plan that we create together with the parents, and it is things that they need to complete, things that will mitigate the cause for removal, and help them become the best parents possible to allow the child to return to their care. So it's got a list of resources to address those needs that we've identified.
Okay. And is that done in all your cases?
It is.
Was that done in this particular case?
It was.
Okay. Did you receive what I sent out, exhibits number 1 and 2?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And can you tell me what exhibit 1 and 2 are?
They are Gloria Goucher's family plans of service.
Okay. And these were the family plans that were drafted for the parents and for
Yes.
Gloria in this case?
Yes,
Okay. Are these filed with the court?
they are.
Are they made orders of the court?
Yes, they are at the status hearings.
Okay. And that kind of leads me to my next question. Can you tell me what exhibit number 5 is?
I believe it's a status hearing order.
Okay. And is that file mark stamped?
Yes, sir.
Okay. And you said that service plans are drafted, gone over with parents, and made orders of the court.
That's correct.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd ask to admit exhibit number 5. It's a certified copy of the status hearing order from this case that ordered the service, family plans of service.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection.
All right, petitioner's exhibit 5 will be admitted.
Thank you. Your Honor, I'd also ask to admit exhibits. Well, let me ask one more question real quick. I'm sorry. Ms. Brown, on exhibits number 1 and 2, you said these were the family plans for Ms. Goucher.
Yes,
Were these signed by mother?
they were.
Okay. Your Honor, I would ask to admit exhibits number 1 and 2. They are the family plans of service that were just testified to. They are certified copies of the family plans for this court.
No objection, Judge.
No objection.
All right, petitioners exhibit 1 and 2 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Brown, did you receive exhibits 3 and 4?
Yes, sir.
And what are exhibits 3 and 4?
They are the family plans of service for Russell Peterson.
Okay. And did Mr. Peterson sign the service plans?
He did.
Okay. And were these filed with the court?
Yes, sir.
These were also made in order of the court under the status hearing order that we've already admitted.
That's correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit exhibits 3 and 4. They're certified copies of the service plans that were just testified to.
No objection.
No objection.
No objection, Judge.
All right, petitioners exhibits 3 and 4 will be admitted.
Thank you. Ms. Brown, during this case, did parents begin working services?
I believe they did start a few services with the previous caseworker before they moved to Michigan.
Okay. Do you know around the time they moved to Michigan during this case?
I believe it was last fall.
Okay. But is your understanding from looking at the your file from the previous worker that they did start some services?
That's correct.
Okay. Do you know, did they ever complete any services with that while they were still living here?
No.
Okay. Since moving to Michigan and since you've had the case, have attempts been made to have services worked in Michigan?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Now there's some issues when parents move out of state. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And what is that issue?
We're not contracted, so we can't pay the providers in another state.
Okay. So if parents decide to move out of state, unless something can be worked out, services is it at their expense to do services?
Yes, sir. We do pay for the drug screenings. That's the one thing we will provide payment for. So we can provide payment for the drug screens out of state.
Okay. Do you try to find providers out of state that will contract with you? Is there any way to do that?
So that's above my pay grade. But yes, I've made some phone calls to see if it's a possibility, and I wasn't able to find any in Michigan in the town that is that.
Okay. And in hearings that you've been in, that was discussed. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. That due to parents living outside of the state, there were no contracts. We do what we could, but can't promise it.
That's correct.
Okay. But nonetheless, parents are still required to work services under the court order.
That's correct.
Okay. Did you have conversations with the parents on this that services were still required?
Yes.
Okay. You stated that we still pay for drug screens.
That's correct.
Okay. Did you notify parents when you were sending them for drug screens?
Yes.
Okay. Did you have those documents sent?
Yes. I sent them their donor passes every month so that they could go get those done.
Okay. And how did you send those?
Through text messages.
Okay. Did you receive exhibits 7 and 8?
I did.
Okay. And are those, what is exhibit 7 and 8?
They're text exchanges between myself and Russell and Gloria.
Okay. So exhibit 7 is text message exchange between you and Russell, correct?
That's correct.
Okay. And the exhibit 8 is text message exchanges between you and Gloria.
That's correct.
Okay. And among other things throughout those text messages, there are copies of the donor passes. Is that correct?
That's correct.
And this is how you send them to them monthly or whenever you ask them to go drug screen?
Yes.
And you can verify that these are the text messages you forwarded to me that came from your exchanges with them.
That's correct.
Your Honor, I'd ask to admit exhibits 7 and 8. They are the text message exchanges that between Ms. Brown and parents that she just testified to.
No objection?
No objection.
I have no objection, Judge.
All right, petitioners exhibit 7 and 8 will be admitted.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Brown, what type of services were parents asked to do?
Russell's was parenting classes, counseling. Let me pull his up. The drug screenings. And I believe that might have been it for him, besides maintaining contact with me.
Okay. Did Mr. Peterson, did he drug screen for you?
He did not.
Okay. Did he ever drug screen during the case?
No, sir, not for me.
Okay. Did, at the very, do you have any personal knowledge of, at the very beginning of the case, if he did any screens?
I cannot testify to that, no, sir.
Okay. But while you've been on the case since, you said February?
I was assigned in the very end of January.
Very end of January. Since then, so for the last 7 months, has Dad drug screened for you?
No, not for me or the department.
Okay. Has he done his services as far as counseling?
No, sir.
Parenting classes?
No, sir.
Has he kept in touch with you okay, though?
Overall, yes, sir.
Okay. Is part of their service plans to maintain stable housing?
Yes.
Okay. Have parents maintained stable housing?
No, sir.
Okay. They have had housing, but have they had, you said no, sir, to stable housing?
No, not stable.
Okay. And what do you mean by that? Can you elaborate on that some for me?
So when I got the case, they were living in a motel, and they've gone for a few different motels since I got the case. And as of right now, I believe that they are living with Gloria's father in Westland, Michigan.
Okay. And do you know when that happened?
I do not. I sent a drug screen in July, and Russell told me at that time that he was no longer in Flint. So then I went and got I updated my donor pass to reflect the town he was currently in, and that's when he told me. So that was early July.
Okay, but he never told you exactly how long.
No, sir. He didn't tell me he was moving.
Okay. So since you've had the case, how many different places have, let's start with mom. How many different places do you know where mom's lived?
Mom hasn't really kept me up to date with hers unless her and Russell are together, which I can't testify to. I would know of one, which is the current place she's at with her father.
What about Russell? Do you know how many places he's lived since you've had the case?
I believe it's 3.
Okay. And other services, sorry, real quick.
While you're Mr. Trout, while you're looking for that, let me just, Mr. Peterson, Ms. Goucher, I need y'all to try to get your devices where you all are on screen. Mr. Peterson, appears you're smoking. I need you to extinguish that. Ms. Goucher is, like it or not, this is a courtroom. We don't wear hats and we don't smoke. Okay. All right, Mr. Stratch, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Ms. Brown, has Dad maintained a stable income to your knowledge?
Not to my knowledge, no.
Okay. He has worked different jobs?
That's correct.
Okay. And have you received any proof of any of those jobs?
I've asked for pay stubs. One conversation, he told me he was waiting for his disability to kick in. And then last month he did send me one pay stub from the trucking company that he is currently employed with. Okay.
But he's kind of moved around as far as his work history. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. You said that he has not done any drug screening.
Not for the department, no, sir.
He has not done parenting classes.
That's correct.
Did he do a psychological?
He did not.
He did do some counseling with Jennings, but never finished that service. Is that correct?
That's correct.
Okay. Did he ever do an OSAR?
He did not.
Okay. Now visits, he's, for the most part, has made his visits. Is that correct?
That's
His
correct.
parents still have virtual visits with the child.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Has he missed a few but made most? Is that?
Yes. According to my records, since the last hearing, which was in April, he's missed one visit.
Okay. All right. Now, go ahead and talk about this for a second. Mom and dad, or dad's driving truck again, is that correct?
Yes, sir.
Okay. Did mom and dad come to Amarillo a few weeks ago?
Yes, they did.
Okay. Did you have knowledge of that?
I did not until after the fact.
Okay. Did they have a in-person visit?
They did.
Okay. Did they reach out to you to ask for that?
They did not. No, sir.
Did your family support worker reach out to you to ask for that?
No, sir.
Okay. So mom and dad is your understanding a truck broke down in Amarillo?
That was my understanding, yes.
Okay. And they were here and asked for an in-person visit?
Yes.
Did you ever see them or have knowledge that they were in town through their whole stay here?
No, sir.
Okay. Do you know where they stayed?
I do not.
Do you know how long they were here?
I do not.
Okay. Now, mom, what services was mom asked to work?
Mr. Trout, hang on, before you move on,
Yes, ma'am.
I'm confused. So they did have an in-person visit. Who did they set that up with?
Ms. Brown?
So from what I understand, they reached out to the family support worker who monitors their visits virtually. And they told her the situation. From what I gathered, they had been in town a few days waiting for that truck to get fixed, and they asked for an in-person visit through her. I didn't realize that had occurred until afterwards when I read the documentation from the FSW.
Okay. All right.
Sorry, Judge, I didn't cover that very well.
No, it was just confusing to me. So, okay, I want to make sure I understood correctly. Okay. Sorry.
On that note, Ms. Brown, is a in-person visit, would you have approved that had that been asked of you?
I would have approved it, but I would have had a few things done beforehand. We could have knocked out a couple of the services while they were here prior to that visit, had I known they were in town.
Okay. And you said had them do a few things before the visit or knocked out some services. What do you mean by that?
Ordinarily, before an in-person visit, I require my parents to drug screen. And since we've struggled with that for the time I've had the case, I would have made sure that happened prior to the visit. And then psychological, we might have been able to squeeze in, depending on how long they were in town. Like I said, I don't know, but we could have at least drug screened before the visit.
Okay. All right. Thank you, ma'am. As to mom and her services, what services was mom asked to work?
So it was maintaining contact with me, stable home parenting, psychological, individual counseling, the OSAR, the parent-child visits, and then the drug screening and maintaining a drug-free lifestyle.
Okay. Do you know, did she drug screen for you? We'll start there.
No, she did not.
Okay. Is she working?
Not to my knowledge, no, sir.
Okay. Now she's in the truck with dad. Do you know, does mom drive or does she just ride with dad? Do you have any idea?
I don't.
In your conversations with mom, has she ever acknowledged that she drives truck?
She has not.
Okay. Let's see. She have a stable home?
Like I stated, I believe right now they're living with her father. I can't testify as to that's stable or appropriate.
Okay. Did she do parenting classes?
No, sir.
Individual counseling?
No, sir.
OSAR?
No, sir.
How does mom done on her visits?
Since since last hearing in April, she's missed 3 visits. But the visits when she is there are appropriate.
Did she do any of the wave?
No, sir.
So outside of visits, mom hasn't done any services.
That's correct.
And at this time, neither parent has complied with or completed service plans.
That's correct.
And we put on record, but these were offered to the parents.
Yes,
Parents signed them and they were made orders of the court.
that is correct.
And neither parent has completed any services.
That's correct.
Now, do you receive what I sent out, exhibit number 6?
Yes, sir.
And what is that?
That's the certificate of paternity.
Okay. Dad's never disputed to you that he's father to the child, correct?
That's correct.
Do you know, mom and dad have been together for a long time?
Yes,
Do you know, have they ever been legally married?
not to my knowledge.
Okay, so you don't know if they consider common law or if they're legally married.
I'm not sure how that works in Michigan. No, sir.
Okay. Your Honor, I'd ask to admit exhibit number 6. It's a certificate of paternity registry search. It's a certified copy that was filed with the court, just stating that nobody has made an intent or notice of claim paternity on this case. I think there's just because of parents, I believe, have always referred to each other as husband and wife, but I don't know that they're necessarily legally married.
No objection.
No objection, Judge.
No objection.
All right, petitioners exhibit 6 will be admitted.
Thank you, Honor. Ms. Brown, are you asking the court today to terminate the parental rights of Gloria Goucher as to the child Jasmine Peterson?
Yes, sir.
And are you asking that based upon mom's failure to work services throughout the little over a year of this case?
Yes, sir.
Are you also asking the court to terminate the Russell Peterson's rights as to Jasmine Peterson based also upon failure to work services,
Yes, sir.
failure to register with paternity registry?
Yes, sir.
And do you believe that's in the best interest of the child?
I do.
Where is the child?
She's currently placed in a foster home
How long has she been in that foster home?
since she was removed.
Okay, so over a year.
Yes, sir.
If the child, depending on what happens here today, if the child, Jasmine Peterson, becomes available for adoption, displacement, are they interested in adopting?
Yes, sir. Very.
Okay, are they licensed already?
Yes.
And that is their intent if that becomes an option.
Yes, sir. If it becomes an option.
Do you believe today, based upon the way this case has proceeded, that is in the best interest of the child?
I do.
Is she growing, hitting all her milestones?
Yes, sir. She's thriving in this home.
Okay. Are they set up and equipped to take care of this child?
Yes, sir.
And that is their wish.
It is.
I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Hammonds?
Thank you, Judge. Ms. Brown, in your conversations with Gloria, Has she ever indicated to you why she's been unable to perform any of these services?
No, sir. I know that she struggled with transportation, but other than that, that's it.
And recently, did she indicate to you when she moved in with her father?
She did not tell me that, no, sir.
I mean, do you know anything about him?
I do not.
Was the department ever in a position to do a home study on him or to at least go visit the house?
No, sir. Gloria never gave the department information about her father.
And then here recently, has Gloria indicated to you how long they spend at her father's home or how long they are in the truck?
No, sir. I wasn't aware Gloria was traveling with Russell until Russell told me that through text message a few weeks ago.
And has Gloria ever indicated to you past employment?
No, sir.
I have nothing further, Judge.
All right, Mr. Novak.
Thank you so much, Judge. Ms. Brown, as always, thanks for taking my calls on these cases, and I enjoyed talking to you yesterday. I just have a few discrete questions. Would you agree with me that Russell's visits with Jasmine have been appropriate? They have gone well?
Yes.
Okay. One thing you said earlier, Courtney, that I really want to focus on is you told me that Russell had not drug tested for the department.
I said to my knowledge, going back, I do see that he drug screened in 2023.
And I just want to refresh your recollection a little bit. You signed the permanency report to the court that was filed on February 1st of this year, correct?
That's correct.
And in that report to the court on page 10 of your report, you noted that on May 18th of 2023, Russell tested hair follicle and urine analysis, and both were negative, correct?
That is correct.
As far as you know, in fact, as far as the department knows, Russell does not have a drug problem, correct?
That's correct, as far as I know.
And as far as you know, and as far as the department knows, Russell does not have an alcohol problem, correct?
That is correct.
Pass the witness, Judge. Thank you so much, Courtney.
All right, Ms. Bella.
Ms. Brown, did you request both mom and dad to drug and alcohol screen throughout this case?
Yes, ma'am.
Other than the one that was mentioned for dad in May of 2023, did either parent appear for those tests?
No, ma'am.
Did they receive your request for them?
Yes, ma'am.
And those random drug screens were ordered as part of the family plan?
That is correct.
Did you ever request from Mr. Peterson to get information from an employer about drug screens?
Yes, ma'am, I did.
What was his response to that?
He was very adamant that I not contact his employer. He told me I would need to get a warrant, and he was very against me contacting his current employer to see how that drug screen result ended.
Why did you suggest reaching out to the employer in the first place for the drug screen?
I sent him the drug screen, and he told me he had already drug screened for his current employer. He did send me a copy of the paperwork filled out, but not the results. And so I was asking if I could call to get the results just to show that he had drug screened at some point. But I was unsuccessful with that.
Whether or not Mr. Peterson has an actual alcohol or drug problem, is it concerning that his partner, who takes care of the child or children in the past, does have that problem?
Yes, ma'am, that is a concern.
And the last you were told, they were living together with Gloria's biological father
Yes, ma'am.
and then traveling on the road together.
Yes, ma'am.
And when they were in Amarillo, they were together
That's correct.
and they exercised that in-person visit together.
Yes, ma'am.
You had stated that you weren't previously given information on Gloria's father as a possible placement, correct?
That's correct.
Were you ever given any names of family to explore?
Yes, ma'am. Russell did give me the name of somebody who he claimed was his mother. And then adoptive mother, I believe, is what he told me. And I did try to contact that individual and I never got a response from her.
What was her name?
Betty Belair, I think is her name.
And Miss Goucher, do you have any information about her biological father that they're now living with?
I do not.
Have you ever had any conversations with her about her biological parents' rights being terminated for her when she was a child?
I know that she was adopted, but that was the extent of my knowledge.
And this is not her adoptive father that they're living with now, but her bio father.
I believe it wasn't specified. Russell just stated that they were living with his father-in-law, who would be Gloria's father.
When parents were in Texas, any and all of those services would have been paid for by the department.
That's correct.
Okay. I pass, ladies.
All right, Mr. Trout, further questions?
I have no further questions, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Hammonds, any further questions for Ms. Brown?
No, Judge.
Mr. Nowak?
No, Judge.
All right, Ms. Zavala, anything further for Ms. Brown?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right. Okay, Mr. Trout, you have further witnesses to call. We are going to take a short break, give Ms. Taylor a break and everybody else.
I don't have any further witnesses, Your Honor.
All right, so it's time to department rest.
Department arrest at this time, Your Honor.
All right. Okay, why don't we take about 10-minute recess, give Ms. Taylor a break, and everybody else get up and move around and take a break. All right. Before we move on, Ms. Goucher, I'm just going to admonish you. I saw the inappropriate gesture that you made on camera as we recessed. And we have looked back at the YouTube video to confirm that that is what you did. I will just tell you right now, I won't tolerate it. It's inappropriate. We are live streaming on YouTube. You're fortunate that we have this format for you to participate in this trial, because otherwise you would have had to come to Amarillo, Texas to do so. So I suggest that you be respectful of this as a courtroom and don't do it again, or I will remove you from the proceeding. You understand? All right. Okay, Mr. Trout, department has rested, is that correct? All right, then.
Sorry, Your Honor, I was muted. Yes, ma'am, that is correct.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hammonds, call your first witness.
Thank you, Judge. I'll call Gloria Goucher.
All right, Ms. Goucher, you need to unmute your device. All right, Mr. Hammond, she's unmuted. You may proceed.
Thank you, Judge. Gloria, when did you move?
Sworn. She hasn't been sworn.
Oh, well, thank you. Thank you, Ms. Taylor. All right, Ms. Goucher, raise your right hand, please. You solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you'll give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
Yeah.
All right. Thank you, Ms. Taylor.
Gloria, when did you move to Michigan?
Back last year, back in like September, I think.
Okay, and was that just because you had no connections to Amarillo, Texas?
Yeah.
I mean, did you have anywhere to stay in Amarillo?
No.
Had you been able to find employment in Amarillo?
No.
Where is the last place you worked on a regular basis?
I never have.
Okay, how long have you and Russell been together?
14 years.
And has Russell always worked?
Yeah.
I mean, primarily truck driving, or what type of jobs?
Truck driving, landscaping, tow trucks.
Okay, do the two of you have other children other than Jasmine?
4.
Are any of them in your custody right now?
No.
Who do they stay with?
Their grandma.
Okay, they stay with a family member?
I don't know anymore. I don't even want to be part of this anymore.
Okay, well, Miss Goucher, there are one of two things you can do. You can basically quit answering my questions and just say you don't want to be involved, or you can answer my questions so the judge can make a determination regarding what's in Jasmine's best interest.
As far as I know, I don't know.
Well, you understand the judge needs to know some things about you to make a determination if she can place Jasmine in your custody. Do you understand that?
Yeah.
Okay, have you been able to complete any of the services that the department gave you to complete?
No, I haven't been able to. I haven't had a transportation to any place or anything.
Okay, when you say you're living with your father, is this your adoptive father or your biological father?
My biological father. My adopted father is deceased.
Okay, but at some point you were adopted by another individual.
Yeah, when I was 15.
Okay, and was that in Michigan?
Yes, it was in Linden, Michigan.
Okay, and your adoptive father lives in Westland, Michigan?
No, that's my biological father.
Okay. Adoptive father is deceased, correct?
Yeah.
Okay. How long have you been living in the house with your biological father?
Almost a year now.
Okay, who else lives there with you?
His girlfriend.
Okay, do they have any other children?
No, my dad does. Yeah, I got a brother and a sister.
Okay, but do they live there, or is it just the three of you living in that house?
Just us 3.
Okay, has Russell lived there in that house any period of time?
No, he's always been on the road.
Okay. How often would you say you go on the road with Russell?
all the time.
All right. And are you paying your biological father any rent?
No,
Do you pay them to buy your food?
no,
All right. So are you totally supported by them?
yeah,
Do you have any means to support Jasmine?
my dad. I have
Okay.
bridge,
Where does he?
we have bridge card and my dad works.
Okay. Where does your dad work?
Sharon's Heating and Cooling.
Okay. And how long has he done that?
Oh, God, I don't know. Like more than 10 years.
Okay. You understand your biological dad has no obligation to give you a house to live in or food. You understand that?
Yes,
What he's doing for you is a gift.
yeah,
Is he willing to give that same gift to Jasmine?
yes, definitely.
All right. Has he ever seen Jasmine?
No, only on video chats when I talk to him.
All right.
I did the one time when after she was born, I called him up and let him see her.
How many rooms are in this house where you live?
3,
Okay. Would Jasmine share a room with you?
yeah,
Have you kept young children before?
yeah,
All right. The other children that are not in your custody, how old were they when they went to live with their grandmother?
a year. Right. Yeah, like a year old.
Okay, were you just not able to support those kids, or what happened?
That was a long time ago. Bas- David,
Well, did your use of alcohol play any kind of factor in those kids going to live with their grandma?
not at that time. I was still with my mom and dad. It was actually my mom's alcohol problem.
Okay, are you in the position right now to take any kind of a drug test to show that you're clean and sober?
Kinda. Kind of hard to do when you're traveling.
Why didn't you take any of these drug tests that the department suggested?
I had no way to them.
Okay, well, you mentioned earlier your father has done heating and air all these years. Are you telling me he has no transportation?
No, his vehicles are always breaking down, and he's always at work, and he doesn't get off work till like 5 o'clock in the afternoon.
Okay, how does he get to work?
Sometimes his boss or somebody has to pick him up and take him there.
Okay, he has no other vehicle.
No, they're all broke down.
Okay. So the only running vehicle that exists is the truck that Russell operates.
Yeah.
Well, do you feel like you're in any kind of a position to offer a stable home to Jasmine?
Yes.
Okay, how if you are on the truck with Russell all of the time?
What?
How are you going to offer her a stable home if you are on the truck with Russell all of the time?
We would get a house and I'd stay with her.
Okay. Over the last year, has that happened?
Yeah, when we moved back to Michigan, we had our own house until the new landlord took over.
Okay, well, you've heard the department testify that every time they called to check on your housing, you were living in motels.
Yeah, that was before we got our house, and then we went back to that after we couldn't afford it.
All right.
Our
What
new
type of
landlord decided to raise
disability-
our rent.
Okay, are you drawing any type of disability?
No, I'm still in the process of getting my Social Security.
Okay, what would be the nature of your Social Security disability?
Like, what is it for?
Yes.
Scoliosis, ADHD,
Okay,
heart.
have you gone to okay, do you have a medical doctor's report for those?
Yeah, I just don't know where the paperwork is. I think my dad would have it.
All right. All right, have you had a hearing with Social Security?
Not yet.
Okay, have you even scheduled that hearing?
Yes.
Okay, when was that scheduled?
A couple of months ago. They said they're processing it and they'd get back to me.
All right. There was some mention earlier that Russell has been drawing disability. What is the nature of his disability?
His is his heart condition, his PTSD.
Okay.
They're processing his right now. They're almost finished with it.
All right. Have you made efforts to visit with Jasmine every opportunity you had?
Yes, I have.
Do you love your daughter?
Yes, I do.
Would you like to have her in your custody?
Yes.
All right. I have nothing further, Judge.
All right, Mr. Trout.
Thank you, Honor. Ms. Goucher, just kind of starting back at the beginning, Mr. Hammond's asked you about your work history and you said you have never worked. Have you ever, do you mean you've never held a job?
I've applied. I've never gotten interviews or nothing. And I can barely stand up for 5 minutes because my back hurts all the time.
Okay.
That's why I'm doing disability right now. My scoliosis is real bad.
Okay. Have you ever been on disability?
I tried to get on it. I had a court hearing a long time ago, like almost 15 years ago, but my dad got me and my mom's court dates mixed up.
Okay. You also mentioned that you were on the road with Russell all the time. How long has Russell been driving again?
He's been on and off with trucking companies since I met him. So
Let me rephrase that. Since the beginning of this case, since last April, when the department got involved, y'all moved back to Michigan. Russell quit driving for a little while, was doing other jobs. Is that correct?
Yeah, he was doing landscape and
I think you mentioned,
landscape.
I think he mentioned snow removal at one time.
Yeah, both
Okay.
of them.
Okay. When did he start driving again since all of that? Since y'all been back in Michigan?
A couple of months ago.
Okay. And you've been on the road with him pretty much since then?
Yep.
Okay. During the course of this case, it's been stated a few times in hearings that y'all are not together. He doesn't know where you live. You all live somewhere different. Have y'all been together the whole time?
No.
Okay. How come you didn't let the department know you were living with your biological dad?
I didn't want my dad to be involved in this again.
You know, under your service plans and orders of the court, you're to let the department know within 5 days of change of addresses or contact information. You aware of that?
No, I wasn't.
Okay. You weren't aware you needed to let us know where you live?
No.
Okay. Now you stated if Jasmine was returned to you that you would get a house and take care of her. Is that correct?
Yeah.
Okay.
We make enough.
Okay. How is it that you could afford to get a house, but you can't afford to get to a drug screen?
Because my insurance and stuff doesn't cover that stuff.
Okay. Do they have, when you were living in Flint, were you living in Flint or have you always lived with your dad since you moved back?
In Flint.
Okay. Do they have Ubers in Flint?
Not that I know of.
Do they have taxi cabs in Flint?
I don't have money to do that.
That is my question, Ms. Goucher. How can you afford to get a house if you can't get a cab ride to a drug screen?
Me and him can afford a house. We're trying to look for one.
And I hope you get one, but that does not answer my question of how you could not afford to get to a drug screen.
I don't have an answer for that.
Okay. Do you still drink?
No,
When's the last time you had a drink?
I don't remember.
Okay.
A long time ago, since I've been in the truck. I won't touch it in the truck.
Okay. You stated to Mr. Hammonds just saying that you loved your child, which I don't doubt, and that you would like to have your child placed back with you, correct?
Yeah.
You understand that the services that were asked of you was a means to get your child back. Do you understand that?
Yes.
And you didn't do any of it. Is that correct?
Yes, it's hard.
Then not only did you not do it, you didn't even attempt to do any of it, correct?
I did some of the drug screens originally.
One drug screen at the beginning? Maybe two?
I did 2 or 3 of them.
Okay. But you haven't done any since June of 23?
So
So over a year, you haven't done the one thing that would show the department that you were not drinking or using drugs. Correct?
yeah, I don't do drugs. I don't even know where that even came from. I never have, never will.
Okay.
I'm trying to put an end to the drinking permanently, which is what I've basically done because I haven't touched it in months.
Okay. And Ms. Goucher, I hope you do. I hope you're able to kick that habit and for good. But that does not dispel the fact that you did not work any services and you just ignored the drug screens and did not go do them through your case.
Well, because in the past, every time I've done or made progress, people add more services on top of what I've already been trying to do.
But Ms. Goucher, you didn't do any services. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Thank you.
All right, Mr. Novak.
No questions, Judge.
All right, and Ms. Zavala.
Gloria, back at the adversary hearing, do you remember being asked if you ever had to be woken up with Narcan before this time?
Yeah.
Is it true that you have had to be woken up with Narcan before this incident?
This was the only time I've ever had to be woke up like that.
Okay, so if you testified during the adversary hearing that it had happened before, which is correct? What you answered then or what you're answering now?
It's only ever happened one time, and that was when all this began.
Okay, so
The way I feel, CPS should never showed up at the hospital the day she was born to begin with.
okay, so all the parties in this case have the transcript of the adversary hearing. It's been produced back and forth between the parties. So if you said last time I was ever like that was a long time ago, way before I got pregnant, and it took the same thing to wake me up out of it, back in Michigan before we were on the road, was that a false statement then?
I don't remember saying that.
That was in response to the question, and you are aware that Narcan is used for drug overdoses, not alcohol. And your response was yes. And then it's not last time I was ever like that was a long time ago, way before I even got pregnant, and it took the same thing to wake me up out of it, back in Michigan before we were on the road. So do you agree that you've had to be woken up with Narcan previously?
No, I don't, because I don't remember saying it.
So back in 2012, you had Amber and she went to go live with Barbara. Is that right?
Yes.
Okay. And she ended up being adopted by Barbara.
Yeah, who is now dead.
Okay. And then back in 2016, you had Ryan, and in a few months, he went to go live with Kelly Mullenix.
Yeah. Because I moved to Indiana with him.
Okay. And is he still there with her?
As far as I know.
And then in 2019, you had RJ, and he went to go live when he was a few months old with Rusty, correct?
Yeah, who had him up to about 2.
And then in 2020, you had Cameron, and when Cameron was a few months old, Cameron went to live with Christina.
Yeah.
Okay, and Christina is who?
Russell's mom.
Okay. And so who is the grandma that has all 4 of these kids that you testified about?
I don't am I supposed to know this? I mean, last
I'm
the
sorry, go
person I
ahead.
knew of that had them was Christine.
Okay. And I believe at the adversary, did you testify that you hadn't seen them in a few years?
Yes, I haven't seen any of them in a long time.
Okay, there's that feedback.
Yeah, his phone connected to the radio.
Okay, now we're all right. Okay.
I believe those are all of my, oh, one more. Ms. Goucher, since the time this case started, I believe at the adversary, there was some discussion about you possibly doing some sort of inpatient treatment. Did you ever do that?
You mean like rehab or something?
Yeah,
No.
okay. I pass the witness.
Okay, Mr. Hammonds?
Nothing further, Judge.
I mean, I did try it once. I got there for a few days. I didn't like it and I ended up leaving, but that was through something different.
All right, Mr. Hammonds, did you say you had no further questions?
No questions, Judge.
All right, Mr. Trout, anything further?
Nothing further from Ms. Goucher, yeah.
Okay, and Mr. Noah?
No more questions, Judge. Thank you.
All right, Ms. Zavala, anything further?
Nothing further with this witness.
All right, Mr. Hammonds, do you have any further witnesses to call?
No, Judge. I rest.
All right, then, Mr. Noah.
Thank you so much, Judge. Call Russell Peterson.
Okay, Mr. Peterson, were you able to get your video back on?
No, Your Honor, I don't know what's going on with it. I'm trying everything in my power, and it'll connect, and then it disconnects, and then it connects, and then it disconnects. I don't know what's going on with it.
Can you switch devices with Ms. Goucher?
Give me 1 second. Hold on. I'm going to try to go to a different spot. Hold on. There we go.
Okay. All right, raise your right hand for me. All right, you solemnly swear or affirm the testimony you will give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth.
I do.
All right, you may proceed.
Thank you, Your Honor. Russell, do you have an alcohol problem?
Negative.
Do you have a drug problem?
Negative.
And that was pretty much confirmed with the May 18th, 2023 UA and hair follicle test, correct?
Correct.
Have you had a chance to do virtual visits with Jasmine?
Have I had a chance to do what?
Visits with Jasmine.
Yes.
How have they gone? Wonderful. Okay. Tell a little bit more about it. Does she recognize you? Talk about the interaction.
She's very vocal. She knows exactly who I am. She is developing very, very well.
Now, the date Jasmine was removed from you, you had a heart attack?
Correct.
Okay. Y'all were staying at a motel here in Amarillo?
Correct.
Tell the court about you get back to the motel. Lost you, Russell.
I'm here. Sorry about that.
Okay.
I'm listening. I don't know what's going on with my phone.
Tell the court about you get back from over the road and you come into a motel room. What do you see? What do you do?
As far as the situation?
Yes.
So I got back and I had noticed that she was unconscious on the bed. I carried Narcan with me as a former medic. I've, always carried it with me, and being from Flint, you never know when you're going to have to use it on somebody. So I had some in the truck. I ran out to the truck, grabbed the Narcan, came back inside, administered the Narcan, no response whatsoever. And then I immediately called 911.
In between calling 911 and 911 showing up, did you have a heart attack?
I'm sorry, could you repeat?
Yeah. Did you have a heart attack that day?
Yes.
Was it after you called 911?
Yes, it was approximately 35 to 45 minutes after the fact.
So 911 shows up. Gloria gets arrested.
Correct.
You go to the hospital.
Yes, about 35 to 45 minutes after everybody had already left.
Okay. And what happened to Jasmine at that point?
The police, that would be Amarillo Police Department. I believe it was Sergeant, what was his name? Sergeant Mendez, I believe it was, told me that seeing how there was no way I could take the child with me, asked me if I knew the neighbors next door. I said, yes, I know them, just by talking to them and everything. They seem like pretty good people. Okay, well, you need to take your child and give your child to them while you go to the hospital. I was like, well, that's kind of hard for me to do when I'm sitting on the gurney strapped down. Is there any way you guys can do that? And they took my child and handed my child to the neighbors.
Did you have any knowledge that the neighbors had a CPS history?
Negative. If I had known, I would have never have allowed that to happen.
Okay. Now you understand that a family plan of service was entered as a court order. In fact, you signed that plan of service. You understand that, right?
Correct.
Tell the judge why you didn't complete services.
There was several different reasons why services were not completed. One of the reasons it was not completed was I did not have enough transportation at the time, being the fact that I had, been in and out of the hospital, dealing with doctor's appointments, different things like that. I just had no time.
Okay. Did Courtney Brown ever reach out to you regarding services?
Negative, and that can be proven via text message. The only communications that we had were she would send the little screenshots of me having to go in to do the drug tests that I, of course, did not do. I did not feel I needed to do them because I do not have a drug and alcohol issue.
Okay. And that was going to be my next question, why you didn't drug test. You didn't drug test because you didn't feel you had a drug problem, correct?
Correct, because I've never once done drugs in my entire life, and I never will. And that's been proven with the federal DOT drug tests that I've done to be able to drive a truck. Otherwise, I wouldn't be able to drive a truck if I had a drug or alcohol issue.
From the moment Jasmine was born up until today, have you ever been a threat to her health or safety?
Negative.
If the court were to return Jasmine to you today, what would your plans be for caring for Jasmine?
I would make sure that she had a home to go to, and I would also make sure that she was very well taken care of. And even if that means that I have to put my job on hold and get a daily job where I'm home every day, and I would set up daycare and everything.
Thank you, Russell. Pass the witness, Judge.
Okay, Mr. Trout.
Thank you, Honor. Russell, you just stated that Ms. Brown never reached out to you about services.
Correct.
Okay. She sent you a text message that said, also have a list of local resources for your service plans that I'm emailing you both. Will you be initiating any of those? Your response, as long as they can be done via video, yes, I would have no way of doing any of that stuff in person. Ms. Brown's response, I'm not sure how they'll be facilitated. You'll have to call and discuss with the providers. Then you state, as far as the drug testing goes, I've already taken one test, came back completely negative. I'm not going to keep taking drug test after drug test after drug test after drug test just to prove to these freaking idiots, the stupid ass courts, that I don't do drugs. Okay, and who's going to be paying for this stuff? Y'all are the ones wanting me to do all these classes and everything, so y'all should be the ones paying for it. Ms. Brown responded, we will not be paying for them because they are out of state. And you said, well, I probably won't be able to do them then. You remember that conversation?
Yes, I do.
Okay, so Ms. Brown has reached out to you about your services, and she did have a list of service providers for you.
Correct, but she never got anything set up. She expected me to do it.
And that has been explained through court hearings that since y'all moved out of state, we are not contracted with providers. Has that been discussed during court hearings?
That has been discussed, but it has also been discussed that if I ever need any help with anything, to reach out to the agency. So I guess it's a catch-22 situation.
Okay. You didn't do your services, did you?
Negative.
Okay. And drug screens, I understand you state you've drug screened once and proved to us, but it's been over a year. We just supposed to take you at your word for it that you don't do drugs, or do you provide, were you willing to abide by the court order and the service plans that you signed?
It's not that I'm not willing to abide by it. It's that obviously if I'm a truck driver, I have to adhere to FMCSA law, which is Federal Motor Carrier Safety Administration, keyword federal, stating that if you have a drug or alcohol issue, you cannot drive a truck, and they do drug tests.
Well,
so obviously I don't have a drug issue.
Mr. Peterson, key word here is court order that you were to drug screen, and you did not do it, did you?
And were the courts willing to provide transportation for that?
Did you ever ask to see if we could get any?
I did. I asked Courtney Brown.
Mr. Peterson, you also stated at a court hearing one time that you had 3 vehicles and you named them all off, models, year makes, and everything. Is that correct?
Yes, and none of them are registered or insured, so they cannot legally go on the road.
Did you ever tell anybody that? Because you didn't tell us that at the hearing.
No, I never told anybody that.
You just didn't do it, did you?
Just didn't do what?
Your service plans or your drug screens.
No, because the case was never involving me anyways, and that was proven on the paperwork that I was ruled out.
Mr. Peterson, adversarial hearing was held. You were ordered to work services. You didn't work your services, did you?
No.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
Okay, Mr. Hammonds, any questions?
No, Judge.
Sure, Ms. Law.
Yes. Mr. Peterson, back with your first child, Amber, your rights were terminated with her, is that correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And we discussed that some at the adversary hearing, correct?
That is correct.
Okay. And what did you say was the reason for your rights to be terminated on her?
Because I was never home.
Okay. Did it have to do with Gloria's drinking?
That was part of it as well.
Would it be correct when asked what did it involve, that CPS case? You said that was, of course, again, Gloria's, disorderly conduct. Then she got arrested for it, the drinking all the time. And it was just constant, just domestic, trying to not cuss, but domestic bullcrap. Is that what you said about that termination?
Pretty much.
Okay. So you and Gloria have been together for, I guess, 14 years now?
Correct. Almost 15.
And that happened 12 years ago?
13.
Okay. And then at another point in the adversary, you were asked about, does Ms. Goucher have an issue with alcohol or drugs? Do you remember what your answer was? would you be surprised to say that she's had a problem for 5 to 7 years?
No.
And then at the time of the adversary, what did you say that Gloria needed before she could be a fit parent to your daughter?
Counseling and alcohol treatment.
Okay. And did you say that if she didn't get intensive counseling, alcohol, anything and everything that can be offered to her to help with her alcohol addiction, because it's gotten way out of hand, that you would not be together with her?
I don't recall. That's been a while ago.
Okay. Do you agree that she needs intensive counseling
Yes.
and that it had gotten out of hand?
Yes.
In fact, at that time at the adversary, you were getting reports from the hotel that she was getting kicked out because of her continued alcohol use.
That is correct.
So at this point, you have lost access to all 4 of your kids because of Ms. Goucher's behavior?
Correct.
You recognized that she needs intensive help?
Correct.
But your plan right now is to get a house and have her stay home with the baby after no intensive help.
I never once said that. Those words never came out of my mouth.
Okay. And at the adversary hearing, you acknowledged telling the officer who appeared that day that this happens all the time.
I guess.
So if your statement was, I do recall saying that, however, I don't know why I said that. It was probably based off of what she's done in the past. Does that sound correct?
Yes.
I pass the witness.
Okay, Mr. Novak?
Nothing further, Judge. Thank you.
Okay, anybody else have any further questions for Mr. Peterson?
No, Judge.
One quick question, Your Honor. Mr. Peterson, to Ms. Zavala's question just then about getting the house together and Ms. Gloria taking care of the baby, you said that never came out of your mouth. So I'd ask the question, if Jasmine was returned to you, what would be your plan?
I already stated that, didn't I?
Just answer the question, Mr. Peterson.
I would get a house. If I had to, I would quit my job and get a local job, set up daycare so that I can be home every day with my child. That is what I stated.
Okay.
Nowhere in there did Gloria come out of my mouth.
Where would Gloria be?
Wherever she wants to be.
Okay. I'll pass the witness, Your Honor.
All right, anybody else have any further questions for Mr. Peterson?
No, Judge.
No, Judge.
No, Judge.
No, Your Honor.
Mr. Peterson, have you looked at any homes?
I've actually looked at a few of them. There's a couple of different houses that I have looked at. One of which I'm waiting on a response back. It's in Flint. There's 2 that are in Westland that I have already applied for. I paid the application fee and everything, and I'm waiting on a response back from that.
And have you looked for any other jobs?
Not at the time, no.
Okay.
But being a truck driver, Your Honor, it is very easy to literally find one at the drop of a hat. Especially having the amount of experience that I have in the industry, I could literally go right now and get a trucking job.
And I assume that you wouldn't have looked into daycare yet because you wouldn't have known where you were living.
Correct. But down in the Westland area, daycares there's millions of them. Well, not millions, but there's tons of them.
Okay. All right. Anybody else have any questions for Mr. Peterson?
I do, Your Honor. I'm sorry. Mr. Peterson, back at the adversary hearing and throughout this case, you've stated that you would kick Gloria to the curb. You would do whatever you needed to do to get your child back. Is that correct?
I have stated that, yes.
Okay. And to this day, we are about 15, 16 months into this case, and Ms. Goucher is currently in the truck with you, correct?
Correct.
So, and you haven't worked services, and you
Correct.
haven't drug screened. And so all the things you stated you would do in order to get your child back, to this day, you have not done. Is that correct?
That is not correct. I never once stated that I would do all of that, like the services and everything, because like I've already stated to my lawyer, this case was never originally about me, and how I got brought into it was beyond me. And I was already ruled out on legal binding documentation as a non-offending parent.
Mr. Russell, you signed the service plans, correct?
Yes, I did.
Okay, those service plans, when you signed them, said you would do them. So you did say you would do those services. You did not do those services, did you?
And again, no, I did not.
I'll pass witness, Your Honor.
All right. Does anybody have any more questions for Mr. Peterson?
No, Judge.
No, Judge.
No, Judge.
All right, then. Mr. Novak, any further witnesses today?
Rest, Judge. Thank you.
Okay. All right, Ms. Zavala, any witnesses to call today?
I have no witnesses, Your Honor.
Okay. Then, Ms. Zavala, you have a recommendation to make.
I do, Your Honor. It's been 1 year and 4 months since Jasmine's been in care her entire life. She's been in the same stable home. During that same 1 year and 4 months, neither parent could take the time to work any services. I don't know how long Jasmine would need to wait for that to happen. The fact of the matter is over this 14-year relationship, the pattern is exactly the same. And Jasmine's the 5th child to encounter this behavior. And it's one thing for Mr. Peterson to say it's all Gloria's fault. But when you know that that's what's going to happen and you choose to leave the baby with her, then that's on you. They have not shown in any way that either parent can provide a stable, safe environment for Jasmine. And she's almost been an afterthought. Yes, they attend virtual visits for 30 minutes with a baby where they wait. And those may go great, but there's not a basis for placing Jasmine in a safe, stable place with either of her parents at this time. It is my recommendation that parental rights be terminated to both parents.
All right, thank you, Ms. Zavala. All right, then at this time, I do find by clear and convincing evidence it is in the best interest of the child, Jasmine Peterson, to terminate the parental rights between the child and her mother, Gloria Goucher, based on Texas Family Code, Section 161001, subsection B1, the E and the O grounds. and the best interest of the child under Texas Family Code 161001B2. At this time, I will adjudicate Russell Horner Peterson as the father of the child Jasmine Peterson and establish the parent-child relationship between the two of them. I find by clear and convincing evidence that it is in the best interest of the child to terminate those parental rights based on Texas Family Code 161001 subsection B1, the D and the O grounds, and the best interest of the child under 161001 B2. Likewise, I would also find termination based on his failure to register with the paternity registry under 161002 B3. At this time, I'll name the Department of Family and Protective Services as the permanent managing conservator of the child and continue the child's current placement. I'll dismiss all court-appointed attorneys from the case after the appropriate de novo and appellate timeframes have expired, with the exception of all who will remain as the child's attorney ad litem and guardian ad litem. Hang on.
Lost Daniel and Stacy.
Yeah, I just lost some folks. Must be a county Wi-Fi thing. All right, everybody just hang on. All right, I've got Ms. Zavala and Mr. Trout on speakerphone. So they told me where they lost connection. So I'm going to back up on my ruling. Ms. Taylor, they heard the DNO or best interest grounds on father. And additionally, termination based on his failure to register paternity registry under 161002B3. I will name the department as permanent managing conservator and continue the child's current placement. And at this time, I'll dismiss all court-appointed attorneys after the de novo and appellate timeframes expire, with the exception of Ms. Zavala, who will remain as the child's attorney and guardian ad litem. Counsel, as always, if you're instructed to file a notice of appeal, please do not do that until a final order is signed and adopted by the referring court. Also, at that point in time, we'll take up any motions to withdraw and substitute counsel. All right, for those still involved, the next review hearing on Jasmine will be November 14th of 2024 on a 9 o'clock docket. All right, anybody have any questions or need any clarification in my ruling?
No, Judge.
No,
All right then. To the parents, I wish you the best of luck in the future. I'll see some of you back then in November. All right, we will be adjourned.
thank you, Judge.
Ms. Taylor, and see you.
Never having a baby in Texas again. You all lied.
All right, thank you, Ms. Taylor.